but in this age of automation, you guys have been on the cutting edge, and happy you say that the veil has been lifted from Google's perspective. But that's really my first question. So this rise of automation, I think I talked to a lot of agencies, and they're just worried. Like, are we going to be having anything to do? So mostly I hear it in the context of it's like a bad thing, it's threatening our livelihoods. But it sounds like you guys are a bit more upbeat. So good thing or bad thing, automation? Kasim, why don't we start with you?
It's a difficult question. I'm not trying to be a fence sitter. I know we have limited time, but it's like, was the automobile good or bad? And it's like, well, if you sold horse and buggies, it was a horrible thing, or it's bad for the environment. So I just think it's an absolute inevitability, and I think that the conversation needs to be fast forwarded from an industry perspective. I'm not saying our conversation here, because if agencies are fighting it, they're already antiquated. There's no question that this is the direction that we're going to head, because it's the direction of scale and where all the advertising networks are going to send us. That said, what I would tell agencies is you'll always have a place. And generally speaking, I actually think your place is going to become far more important. What we've noticed just in the last 18 to 24 months is the ability to interpret data and assist clients in identifying what's real from an attribution perspective and there's no way for me to put a multiplier on this, so I'll just be hyperbolic and say has doubled the value that we bring to the vast majority of our larger clients. Small clients we've lost, and I've lost when we, pre-PMAX is, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag here. Our minimum was $3,000 a month. We would take on a client that was spending $3,000 a month. Post PMAX, November 2021, we lifted it from 3 to 10. And then since then, clients that are spending sub 10 for us are either on our incubator program or we just don't take them. And we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of, it's not that people spending less than $10,000 a month can't run ads. It's that they can't run ads and pay an agency. And the agency is, you're just sitting there and twiddling your thumbs because there's not enough data for you to really make actionable changes. The computer's doing the whole damn thing for you. So you'll probably have to level up a little bit. I think we're going to see a lot of burning off of dead wood. But for real agencies, for good agencies, that's a good thing. Because right now, if I throw a rock in any crowded room, I'm going to hit 4 people that run paid ads. And it's every idiot kid that's taken a weekend course. And they muddy the waters for us. They tell the inadequate stories and they don't manage expectations. And those will be the companies going away. People that can really do the job and do it well. You're going to be more thoroughly embedded than ever. That's my soft opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, so it's like, this is so many times you hear, hey, we talked to the neighbor kid, he's in high school or she's in high school. We asked them to help us with PPC because it's like computer stuff. And kids seem to know computer stuff, right? But clearly there's a lot of value that we can add. But it is curious because at one point when like smart shopping came out, I was of the opinion that was actually a boon for agencies, because now you could actually work with these smaller clients, but basically put them on the right form of autopilot, put some controls in place, and kind of help them with these onboarding stages. But definitely what you're saying makes a lot of sense too. If you're not spending a lot of money on PPC, then there's nothing in it for the agency. And also, I think the more data you have and the more that you can look across different companies in similar verticals, you can probably bring a lot of value to your clients. But Patrick, I'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I really appreciate you setting the stage in the way that you just did, because that is the reality of it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I've been saying this for a while. Automation is an incredible thing. And I've really leaned into the concept that automation will change your job, but it won't replace you. And I think that what we've seen over the last 3 years now, maybe even a little bit more, is that the opportunity for us to provide value to our clients has been more than ever. It's just very different. And I think to your point, I think the history of digital advertising has really just been capitalizing on different versions of arbitrage. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this a lot. He talks about the concept of attention arbitrage, which is the first thing of when the biggest brands in the world were all advertising on TV, but most attention has shifted to, let's say, online and then eventually to mobile. It was cost effective for anyone to go in, and it was cheaper than it should have been. And that's the concept of arbitrage. It's cheaper than it should be. And I think the early days of Google Ads was that, where you could sell a product very easily by capitalizing on Google search. You just find the right keywords. And then a lot of people came to Google. So the next version of arbitrage became finding the long tail keywords. And then that became kind of oversaturated. So it became the quality score question. So it was really just people finding that like niche of like, hey, this costs less than it should. And the best agencies, the ones that were growing the most or the ones that were doing the best work for their brands, were the ones that were just capitalizing on these arbitrage pieces. Facebook was a huge thing where all of a sudden any person that was smart enough to upload an audience list and make a lookalike audience in the Facebook would just being able to churn out money and grow brands' revenue at magnificent scale. That has all caught up to us now. We're now in a position where there's this great book that came out by someone I know called Unleveling the Playing Field. By the way, that's Fred's book. If you guys haven't read it yet, it's phenomenal. But that's the concept of like all these platforms keep coming out with the new version of leveling the playing field, and you have to figure out what that new arbitrage opportunity is. My point now, though, my thought on this is that all that's done. All the arbitrage is gone, and now we're back to the basics of doing real marketing and advertising. And I've never had more fun doing the work than I have over the last 2 to 3 years, because what this shift to automation has really done is beforehand there was a lot of mediocre advertisers, or so let's call them mediocre agencies, that got away with mediocre strategy that were effective at selling mediocre products. And today, if you do one of those three things and all those things aren't great, you're not going to succeed. So it is kind of thinning the herd a little bit, and it's really unfortunate to like see this happen to a lot of colleagues. But to your point, we're now able to solve real marketing problems and do like this stuff. The real reason we got into this industry in the first place, to do real good advertising. And that opportunity is now a direct response to what's happened with automation. So I'm all for it. I love it. And I'm here for it.
I feel like there's so much to unpack there. And thank you for mentioning my book.
Fred, can I just say something? Patrick just said, I just wrote this down because this might be the smartest thing I've heard in the last 14 days. This is brilliant. Patrick said the history of digital advertising has just been different versions of capitalizing on arbitrage. What a paradigm shift that one is. Like, and it was a really kind way of saying most of y'all haven't been doing much, much of anything for the last 2 to 3 years outside of just borrowing from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
And that's worth mentioning. If all you're doing is positioning yourself right in the middle of this, this arbitrage game, we just commoditize the arbitrage, and so you have to move on, provide real value. I think that was brilliantly stated.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. I'm sure this will be on social media. A lot of people are going to like that one.